Good evening and welcome. A lot of you won't know me. I'm Sheila Wakefield and I'm founder and editor of Red Squirrel Press. I'm not going to say an awful lot. I'm going to hand you over to Bram and Jenny shortly, and Bram will introduce Jenny properly. The agenda is that they'll do some Q&A, and then about 7:30 Jenny will read for 15 minutes, and then if there's any more questions, and we'll wind up for about 8 o'clock. So basically, I had the honour of being the first publisher to publish Jenny back in 2011. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, it was not only a privilege and an honour, but she was so on it. There were no corrections to be made to the PDF prints. And I haven't had that happen with anyone else. So last year, when I noticed that on top of everything else, Jenny was out of a publisher, I contacted her and said, would she like to return to the Dre? Which resulted in this, which is this script on steroids, a bigger and beefier version, and it's doing very well so far. We have this live launch at the Mum Shack on Saturday, which Jenny has very kindly organised. So I'm going to hand you over to Bram now, and he's going to introduce Jenny as she should be introduced. And I'll just add that amongst the other links, Bram E Gieben was one of the chemical poets, and the first title I ever published in Scotland, we think in 2007, was the Chemical Poets, and Bram sorted that all out at the time. So thank you to Bram and Jenny, and over to you guys now. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, I remember putting that book together. I definitely had a lot of corrections from my PDF. I think it was the first book I laid out as well as the first one I published. So very nice to come full circle. I'm Bram. I'm a poet and performer and a host of the Strange Exiles podcast. And it's my great pleasure tonight to introduce Jenny Lindsay's new book, This Script. I hope you've all got a drink handy to toast the publication of this new edition. Let me give Jenny a proper introduction. She's one of Scotland's best known spoken word performers, as well as an award-winning programmer of literary events through her spoken word theatre and music organisation, Flint and Pitch Productions. She's been described as one of Scotland's finest cultural innovators and has contributed over the years in countless ways towards creating and nurturing Edinburgh's thriving live literature scene. Jenny's own poetry, performance and film poetry has won multiple accolades, including a John Byrne Award for Critical Thinking in 2020 and shortlisting for the Outspoken Award for Poetry and Film in 2019 and 20. She's toured nationally and internationally from Bali to Montenegro and beyond. And her latest work, This Script, is now exists in 3-part form as a stage show, as a film, and as this lovely new print edition, which we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. The show was described as one of this year's most necessary spoken word performances, and I think similar accolades are going to come to the print edition too. So without further ado, please put your hands together for Jenny Lindsay. Hi Jenny,
Hi,
how you doing?
I'm all right. It's odd and slightly strange, and I'm not drunk enough for this. But yeah, this is it's really nice to be here with all of you and with Bram. Yeah, Bram, you're cheering me, so you have to put me on the spot and ask me silly things that I come up with answers to.
Yeah, this is very strange. We've been friends for a very long time. I'm one of the great many people who've benefited from your, not just your personal friendship over the years, but also from your mentorship, your influence as a poet, and also, the opportunities that you've put my way. It's really is like an honor to be able to kind of sit and chat a little bit about this. But I'm going to ask you a little bit about kind of your journey as a poet as we go on. But I think tonight is really all about this new book. And so I want to ask a little bit about the new edition. First of all, though, tell us a little bit about what inspired the collection as a whole. Is there a theme to it, something that you're exploring, or is it kind of a multitude of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about sex, gender, feminism and death. But what inspired it, there was a few different things, but I think it's probably, we were discussing this before, and I think it's probably easiest for me to answer that question with a poem, which is the first poem in the stage show, and it kind of answers there was a lot of things going on that were starting to trouble me a bit. And I decided I want to find a way to talk about it and to write about it in a way that's accessible and funny as well. So I wrote this poem while half cut on pina coladas in Tenerife, because I thought, oh, I know what we can do to bring people together. So it is. This is a poem called The Schism Ring. There will be cake at the feminist literary gathering, and tea and biscuits, and gluten-free and vegan options, explanatory sprinkles, and safety warnings in case of fire announcements, and formica tables, and ghastly lighting, and a recognition and a catering for everybody covered and uncovered by all topics listed. Sometimes, and I admit this, in full knowledge of all of the ways it is problematic, I wish for a banquet of frog's legs, duck eggs, and steak. Piles of mashed potato laden with full-fat butter and bacon. The setting, a dimly lit cavernous hall, flagons of ridiculously expensive craft ales that we've chored from some dickhead bar. And a wish for a big fuck-off boxing ring, non-lethal, fully accessible, designed for pillow fights to sort out our differences. We'll call it the Schism Ring, and just as now, a match will be declared. But who cares who wins, because afterwards we'll devour chicken wings and mozzarella buns smothered in the hottest of hot sauce. We'll get merry on buckets of Malbec and shout, fuck your biological essentialism, well, fuck your gender essentialism. And then we'll hug with these different chests and breasts squishing together in at least tacit understanding, if not love. Folks, are we not bored of angry Twitter sneers and bigot calls and hatred assumptions? Tired of pouty photo selfies and fuck the patriarchy tote bags and manicured manufactured resistance? Women under 30 calling their older sisters irrelevant witches after all that they have done for us is making me very hungry for a family feast of reconciliation, not agreement. No, a hearty banquet though, not some polite, agreeable cupcake. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you think this is too masculine? As I devour meat on the bone with bare hands. Well, I'll not use cutlery or wipe my face silent when judged by other criteria from men. I'll feel no tick box exercise in demure purity. Demure purity is the wrong ingredient, unless we're after egg-based bland sunk cakes deflated in the kitchen. So bring your lemon drizzle, your rocky road, your red velvet, bring your banana breads and marshmallows, and please do call me a misogynist. This verse is dripping with their damn stuff. It's very calorific. And I am one at times. And so are you, because we're fighting a system we are part of, not individual atoms. So bring your ripened, arrogant plum pudge, your nippy wee ginger biscuits, your thirsty tongue, your razor whips like stinty sixes by all things listed. Bring fistfuls of chocolate cookie crust and melting childhood strawberry ices. Bring your loathing, self and otherwise. Bring your love. Bring your love. Schism Ring. It's also open to food fights. Most importantly, all are welcome. Thank you. What? That's so weird performing that sitting down.
You're going to have to imagine the sound of the rapturous applause there. I believe it is coming from the audience
Cool.
in visual form. No, that was tremendous. The thing that really strikes me about your work is no matter how serious the topic that you're addressing is, you always manage to approach it with humor. What kind of role does humor take in approaching a topic like misogyny, like gender?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's huge. And obviously, because I come from a sort of performance poetry background, what I've always been really aware of is that as a political poet, as a feminist poet, I don't want to just get up on a stage and lecture the audience. I mean, although it's performance poetry, it's about craft as well. It's about finding a way to address difficult issues without necessarily like seeking to convince anyone that I'm right about it. But if you make people laugh, then they can maybe sort of, you know, feel that they can explore things a bit more. I think an obvious poem in the book is the one about Pornhub, where I basically created a poem. It is very poetic, based on the comments underneath Pornhub videos. You know, and that's a way to kind of make the audience laugh. But then in the show, I go into the serious bit afterwards, because you've got to sort of give that light and dark. And also, I just like laughing. It's good. There's not enough joy in the world. Let us laugh. And sometimes things are so difficult and so bizarre that you have no fucking choice but to laugh.
Yeah. I think you're right to connect that humour to your performance as well. There's a sense in which you can inhabit roles, and that's something you did interestingly in the book. You know, it's very different to the stage show as well, reading it on the page. You know, I'm seeing the Jenny performance as we're hearing that last poem, whereas when you're reading it on the page, particularly things like the Pornhub thing, it felt quite immersive. Was there any particular, I guess, like technique or approach that you used in the collection to try and create, you know, meaning or structure to it?
Do you mean on the page? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking less about the layout, although I'll definitely come to that. But I know these poems are univocal poems. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, so just for context for people who don't know, the show and the book were all sort of structured around 5 what we call univocal poems, which is where you limit yourself to using only one vowel in a piece. So this script is a univocal in I, and you limit yourself to just using that. I'll maybe say a wee bit about how I came to use that form, actually, because it's probably relevant to how the book even came about. So as Bram said in the introduction, I spent a great deal of time focusing more on things to do with, you know, the scene, the sector, you know, building, mentoring and running shows and blah, 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 and spending a lot of time chasing funding and putting on events and comparing and all the rest of it. And as much as that was great, I went through 2 years of just the most appalling writer's block I've ever experienced. I was like, I'd forgotten what the point of poetry is, which is to fuck about with words. It's to play. It's to make a wee jigsaw of meaning out of wonderful, beautiful language. And my friend, the poet Luke Wright, had said to me, look, if you're struggling with like writer's block, try writing some univocals. And I'd seen his very, very funny univocals that he'd written. And I thought, do you know what, why not? And I didn't get around to it. And then I got given a commission. And when you get a commission, you've just bloody got to write, don't you? And what the commission was I was teamed up with a visual artist in Melbourne. And the idea was I was sent a piece of her work and I had to respond to it with a poem without being told anything about the artist or anything about the work. And it was a collage piece made up of different, and it looked like a woman made out of, you know, different things. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, girl in bits. Girl in bits, shit, it's a univocal. So I decided to write a univocal in response, because why not? I mean, a commission is difficult enough. Why not make it triply difficult by writing a univocal? So
is there a way in which like restrictions help shape something?
Yeah, I mean, with the univocals, actually, because I was writing about tricky subject matter, I was writing about, you know, I mean, not as tricky as I realised it was. I mean, at the time, in, you know, 2017, 18, you know, I knew that it was becoming contentious to talk about, you know, gender and feminism. But I was talking about gender in the old use of the word, you know, and all feminists have always critiqued gender. That's what feminists do. So it wasn't until later I realised just how much of a risk I was taking, actually. But because there were huge contentious topics and there were difficult issues, personally, politically, whatever, actually restricting yourself is quite freeing. And it works as well. I fell back in love with writing poetry and yeah, happy days. Should I just do that poem, actually?
Yeah, that would be great. Let's do that poem. Absolutely.
Partly to stop me talking. I do know it off by heart, but I'm going to have it in front of me just in case, because I'm quite nervous tonight, because I'm worried my cats are going to come in and heckle me. Right, so this is this script, a part univocal poem in and about I. Since 6, it imprints in skin, this girl script, this birthright which kills spirit. Whilst timid lips twitch, shh, girl, swirl mildly within this. Eyes itch in this skin, in this script. Misfits spit, killness, wit stingingly with livid rifts. This script stinks. It is shirtless, its skirt shims with impish grins. It is split pink bikini tits, its pricks and fringing with victim scripts. It is in birth till infirm, this script, this girlish mimicry. Grim, restive girls wish trim bits within necks of thigh rip and thick skins and big biff shirts, but binding with rigid distinct ticks identify with strictish wish list as inspiring. It binds I with insulin picking, piddling limits. Misfits, flick digits, fists twitch, indignity fizzing, sighs rising. 'Cause I, girl, is it implicit? Is it ID? This insipid script, is it simply right? Writ in birth, identity, cis. Is this misprint? Kick it. Stick it in bins brimming with skin flicks. High five, other eyes. Let a collective eye light up within winning shin kickings. Bitches, reclaim this script. Be singing one is not born, one becomes woman. Oops. Off script. Because it's illicit thinking, skirting kinship with siblings, so hissing indignity with an ism, split ID from eyes, schisms rip, twittering videos, timid girls, split signs, skirmish, irk, pitching in his visibility, Christ the thread. Shh. Kick it. This script is I-ridden. I is limiting. I is I first. Tight knit wiring gives wind chill. We are not this script. Though we act it well, and with vim, I stand still, individual, while a collective head rips necks to listen. Thank you. Bram, come back from your fag.
You tell us having a fag break. I'm busted.
Of course, darling, of course.
That was tremendous, Jenny.
Thank you. I messed it up a bit, actually. Sorry about that. I was like,
I don't think you noticed. I'm seeing good comments in the chat there. Speaking of the chat, if you'd like to put some questions forward for Jenny, we're going to have a spot for that shortly coming up. So please do start posting them in the chat, and we will do our best to get to as many as we can. I wanted to ask, there was a phrase floating around, because I, like you, took a little break from poetry and performance for numerous reasons. There was a phrase floating around a few years ago, the personal is political, and that seemed to be kind of on everyone's lips. I feel like but both your work in general, but also, you know, your experience of writing these poems over the last few years have provided a really interesting intersection of the personal and the political. Have you always seen those things as intertwined, or do you think they're separate? I mean, I'm particularly thinking about the poem Feminism Meets Capitalism for a Dram. I thought this was a great exploration of the personal and the political. Yeah, I mean, obviously the personal and political is it's classic feminist phrasing. When it comes to performance poetry, and when it comes to doing the stage shows, both this script and Iron Salt, as you know, which was the first stage show I wrote, I've got rules for myself. So I think of it in my head like you've got the personal, so personal stories that you can share with people, and you're trying to use the personal to reach the universal. So even if someone has never had the experiences that I've had with men, with sex, with gender, with feminism, they can still find there'll be something universal they can tap into. But one thing that I won't do, and actually kind of what I was trying to get at in the show itself, was that there are some things that are private that they're not getting on the stage. And the poem that won the award for critical thinking, The Imagined We, that was about the double-edged sword of sharing, private
information about yourself, private things that have happened to you through poetry. But you can tell the personal, but you've got to keep yourself safe as well. And in all of my mentoring that I've done, that's something I always try and hammer home. Like, people like, right, I've had this awful thing happen to me, I want to make a stage show out of it. It's like, right, okay, that's your spark. That's the thing that you want to do. It was the same for me with this script. The script, although on the surface it's about sex, gender and feminism, the spark is something that happened when I was 14 that barely anyone knows about. So it's, you know, you keep some things to yourself. An audience doesn't get access to all of you. They don't bloody deserve it. No, I'm kidding.
No, that's really fascinating, and I could probably talk to you for ages about like the themes of trauma and how they're explored these days. I think that's probably a whole other hour. Maybe we could do it on the podcast. I wanted to talk to you again about the book. Let's bring it back to the book. So this is a brand new edition. It's a little bit larger than the original, and it's beautifully typeset and designed. Can you talk a little bit about how it came into being?
Well, I would say that the typeset and the design is the wonderful Jerry Cambridge of Dark Horse fame, who has found himself linked to me in my work, probably in ways that he sometimes regrets. No, I'm kidding. But he designed it and typeset it and everything. I mean, as some people might know, the first edition came out with Red Squirrel Press in 2019. And I won't dwell too much on the reasons that I asked for my rights back, but I had to ask for the rights back to my work. And as Sheila said, when she got wind of this, she approached me and we decided to put out a new edition. And quite frankly, since I wrote the first edition, a lot of things have happened that are quite on theme to the book. So I wrote some more poems, and I also included a couple of older poems that were on that theme from my other pamphlets as well. So there really is a lot more. I think it's 12 or 13 new poems in it. One of which is extremely long because it was a commission it was like a 10-minute commission for Pitlochry Festival Theatre. There's a lot more poems about grief in here as well, and bereavement. I lost all of my grandparents during the course of 2018 to 2020. So there's lots of poems about family and things in there too, and some nice things as well. There's some nice things too. I know it's the elephant in the room, folks. I know I've had quite a hell of a few years, but nice shit's happened as well. So there's some poems about niceness as well. We might even get to one of them at some point.
It's just wonderful to hear new work from you, and I'm really excited to explore it in a bit more depth. I know I have my favorites. I wonder if now that you've kind of gone down the route of publishing a few collections, and you've had the opportunity to work with people like Jerry Cambridge who've got a very fine understanding of how a book should look and feel, do you feel any differently about the kind of hoary old page versus stage debate that we always asked about as performance?
God, I miss those days when the biggest schism in the poetry world was, are performance poets actually poets, or literary poets better? Rah, rah, rah. God, those were amazing days. I liked that schism. Actually, I have changed my views on that quite a lot. And at this point, I'll give a shout out to Maggie Gibson, who I think is here as well. Maggie was my mentor for the first edition of the book, because I do lack quite a bit of confidence in terms of how presenting things on the page. I'm far more confident on stage than I am on the page, as it were. But I'm less rigid about my views. I used to be, the liveness is king. You don't even put films out of poems. It's all about the liveness. I've definitely changed my tune on that. So, and thank God I did in time for COVID. So, yeah.
Tremendous. I think we're about ready to hear some more poems from you, if you're up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just a wee reminder before we start to everybody, if you post some questions in the chat, we are going to have at least 10 minutes to do that. Or I've got some more questions for Jenny if we don't have enough interesting ones from the audience. So step your game up and let's get some questions on the go. But without further ado, let's hand over to Jenny for a set of poems. I'm really looking forward to this.
Right, I'm going to start off with one that, if I can find it, I have actually put little tags in here, but the thing is, which tag is one I need? Who knows? here it is. This is one that was in the first edition and is in the stage show as well, and it's also one of the film poems too. And it's about this. I'm 40 now and childless, and it's Anyway, it speaks for itself. This is called An Invite to Your Baby Shower or Your Child's Birthday Party. They don't make them like they used to. Don't make women like your granddad, nor daughters like your ma did, or girls like this absence in the shape of a child. I'll send best wishes. Maybe I might come sip awkward Prosecco at the Barbie, get accidentally pished like my aunties did. But never ask me of ideal worlds or if this choice is choice, or look at me knowingly when you hear I'm in love now. There is no path but the one that's walked. This hello, welcome to the world. I wish you wonder, joy, nae larkin is all I have to give at present. This cradled hope, though, no gifts were asked for, no gifts demanded. Thank you. So that's that little one. I might do the one that Bram mentioned, feminism meets capitalism for a dram. As I said, I'll give a wee bit of chat first. As said at the beginning, one of the motivations for the whole of this script was that I was looking around and I was seeing a lot of shutting down of discussion about the things that were kind of going wrong with feminism, and there was a lot of ageism, there was a lot of ignoring of older women in particular. It was really, really annoying me. There was a lot of sexism, but I felt that sometimes we weren't really talking about the roots of what was going on, and I imagined a scenario where the two protagonists of feminism and capitalism went on a date and had a chat about how the fuck we got here, basically. So that's what this poem is about. Feminism meets capitalism for a dram. I'm here because you asked me politely. You were persuasive and clever to make it seem like my choice. But don't think for a second that I don't know what you're up to. We've been doing this dance for years now, after all. Yes, I saw the This Is What a Feminist Looks Like t-shirt marketing campaign and those Dove adverts. Nice one. Grudgingly, I see what you did there, chum. But the touchable, fuckable, rapeable, cunting sight of this is still unknown to you. And my tongue is a dumb slug trying to sip this pink drink you've ordered me. I thought we were meeting for a dram. Aye, I know that the ladette marketing campaign is now so yester-century, and you're keener now in the simpering pretty box tick and the strong and androgynous box tick and the boxy tick. You're such an individual boxy tick, but to be quite frank, pal, I'm not sure that that's going to stick. Because the touchable, fuckable, rapeable, cunting sight of this is still unknown to you. So yes, on the surface, the choices you offer are quite pretty, but the touchable, fuckable, rapeable, cunting sight of this is still unknown to you. So I want this very much. I want to be beautiful. I want to be loved. I want to want you, but not want you later. I want to want you, but not be wanted back. I want you to want me, but not know I might need you, because this is crap, pal. This is crap. And I know, and you know, that I will take you home tonight, and I will fuck you like there's cameras, and yet our bodies, they'll not converse. Because the touchable, fuckable, rapeable, cunting sight of this is still unknown to you. Listen, you know this. You knew this before you even invited me here to this bar. You have known me for years, and you know how I have known the panting ache of another's absence, the splits and the schisms that have ripped at my heart, and I have longed for the tangy wrap of familiarity in a shared bed, though special and separate, our limbs all intersecting to one fine and beautiful mess of hope, of liberation. But I find myself forgetting this now with my dumb tongue and my increasing solitude that you made for me. With a caged heart so cautious to beat its truth, it's now breaking itself. I have paid you with my fangs, my love, my body, my language, my time. And cleverly, you made it seem like my choice. But the touchable, fuckable, rapeable, cunting sight of this is still unknown to you. So I think it's only fair that tonight it's your round, my gentle man. Oh, I haven't performed that one in ages. The last time I actually performed poems from this script was in February 2020, which was a really fun month for me, I must say. But anyway, moving swiftly on. What are we going to do? Do you know what? I'm going to do a nice new one. It's the final poem in the book. As I say, it's been a hell of a wee time of it, but you've got to find the good things as well, because they make life worth living and wine tastes sweeter. So, this is called The Sky is Singing. A branch, a leaf, a kiss understood completely. Later, her back to grass, she looked up and captured her sky through the branches, sent me the image with the words, the sky is singing. The shortness of this beam of time known, a need for swift and simple truths grounded us. I sang too. On receipt, I snapped my own sky to send back to her. A big, big blue where gulls burst a picture as her branches did. While she lay down, I stood, beaming. Our love lit with swapped skies, the same roots. I'm capable of niceness. Who would have thought? How am I doing for... Oh, I'll turn my phone off. How am I doing for time? I think I've got time for maybe one or two more. There is one that I want to do it. Right. I want to do it. I have literally never performed it before, and it's quite a performance-y one, but it's new and it's in the book. Right, well, I give it a go. Right, I'm going to give it a go. This is a safe space. I'm absolutely sure of it. Who knows? Anyway, so we're living in very, very strange times. And there's a pattern to the strangeness that is going on for a lot of people, not just women, but mainly women, linked to what a lot of people have loosely called cancel culture, which I think is far too slight a phrase for what's actually going on. And as Bram and I were talking, I with my poetry, I don't always want to talk about my own situation. And in order to keep my sanity for the last few years, I have looked for the patterns in what happens to people who get cancelled, as it were. And one of the best phrases that I've come across is from the musician Nick Cave, who described cancel culture or sort of online pile-ons and things as mercy's antithesis. And I suppose this is a bit of a found poem in that the language that's used in this is all language that I've seen develop in the pattern of the thing that I am talking about. Right, shut up, Jenny. Show, don't tell. This is mercy's antithesis. Don't get back up. Apologise for small slights. We saw you do slights. Apologise for your slight adjacency to slights others slighted. Apologise for imperceptible slights. We know better of whistled slights, your ignorant slights. Now you know, do better. Apologise for the letter S, and that slight includes T, and that suggests tricks, and that includes the letter I. You know you have done this. We saw you do tricks. To now, shocked. We are just seeing you now. All you are is this. We must unite in kicking against the power of your sleight that leads to tricks. Don't deny our lived logic. We saw you do tricks, and we are shocked, exhausted, horrified. It's abhorrent. No longer small sleights. Don't deny it shows your trickiness. Excuse it all you want, but sleight leads to tricks, and you stood by adjacently when tricks became shock. We told you to stay down. Don't try go back to the start now. Lay it all out with truth, show and spirals. That's what you would say with your sleights and your tricks, your truth. Make it all about you. Spiral it back to your life. Your life is all you are is selfish tea. You are such a selfish tea, making things worse for yourself. I am disappointed, horrified. We see you. We are throwing up our lungs at the path you've gone down with your sleight and your tricks and your how dare you ask why. We've been open about our letters and you dare question our allyship, community, solidarity. Much love to you. So sorry you had to deal with this. This is an appreciation thread for not you, idiot. More sleights, is it now? Disgraceful. Look at the state of you now. Just apologise for the tricks and your sleight. It will all go away if you just unstick this. Unstick. Look, we saw you. They said so too. Don't get back up, but back up your sleight. Better back up your light. Words are so important. Apologise. We will never forget until you apologise. Some apology. See through. We saw you. Must we go through this again? We are so tired, exhausted. We saw you. Your slight tricks. You're over if you don't get back up. But we dare you to try. Woo. I need some drugs. Right. Yes. Let's do one more, and then we'll go back to Bram. What will I finish with? What will I finish with? Preferably something nice, right? Not the Pornhub poem then. Oh, right, actually, I know what I'm going to do. It's a very, very small poem, and I know that it's one of Maggie's favourites, so I'm going to do that one. It's called Lighter, and it's about, something that's not often spoken about, which is like friendship breakups. Where is it? Look at the contents page, Jenny. That would help. Yeah, friendship breakups, which can be just as shitty as other ones. Lighter. Oh, page 80. There we are. I'm so professional. Right, 80. Right, this is called Lighter. Being with her was like a game. A candle between us on the table. The trick, to quick swish an index finger through the flame. And this led to laughter, cries of, do it again. Sometimes, oh yeah, bastard. A game infectious, her encouragement risky, selfish, addictive. But it never lasted. Sometimes I found myself staring at an unlit stump. Sometimes, too many times, she disregarded the safe word, held my palm in till it blistered. Eventually, too much knocking over of the bastard thing in my direction, I'd schlep home, morosely picking wax off yet another formerly favourite cardigan. There is regret in this, as I eye the wax-stained table, because at times we made good light. But sometimes that kind of love will burn you and your fucking house down till there's nothing left to consume. So that Tuesday, I left the matches at home. She'd stolen my lighter, of course. It wasn't working for her anymore. Okay, thank you very much for being polite. I have one more poem that I will do at the end, but we're going to hand back to Bram, who's probably had about 14 bags, lucky man. So Hello.
Hey, Jenny, that was tremendous. That was tremendous. We do have a couple of questions from the chat, so I'm going to go straight to those. First of all, it's a very practical one. Do you have any shows in the Fringe this year, and where can we buy tickets?
No. quick
one.
No, I've been annexed from the City of Edinburgh. No, no plans for the Fringe this year. I mean, I was hopefully one day I'll get to perform the stage show again. I struggled to find a venue to do that just now. So, but yeah, hopefully I'll be able to perform it again at some point.
Well, you never know. There might be some opportunities in Glasgow coming up that we could talk about. Let's have a chat about that. Excellent. Somebody was also asking about your influences as a poet. Have those changed over the years? Have you found?
Yeah, I suppose I have more influences through more literary poets, because most of the people who inspired me when I was starting out were very, very much spoken word or performance poets, and self-described as such. So people like Jem Rose and Francesca Beard and Selena Godin. But as time has gone on, I think a lot of them have started to change how they describe themselves too. So yeah, they're more literary influences now as well. And I'm starting to write different material as well. I'm working on a novel just now, and actually studying poetry formally for the first time in my entire life, just to see, what happens. So yeah, I would say also, I mean, I admire quite a lot of the sort of Scottish hip hop guys as well. Like I just love the dexterity of hip hop. Though, I've gone along to sort of hip hop gigs sometimes and stood at back in my sort of like my heels and my wee blazer, and I'm like, I am so out of place. Yeah, it's funny.
Oh dear. No, that's really great. I think, like, as somebody who's also a fan, a critic, and a practitioner of Scottish hip hop, you've given a lot of opportunities to working class artists and people from kind of diverse backgrounds in that regard. And it's very much appreciated by that scene and those people. Lots of praise for your performance. Lots of people saying it's very brave to take on these topics. So
there's a thin line between brave and stupid.
let's address the elephant in the room a little bit. I have two very simple and pretty open questions for you on the topic, and I wonder if the answers might prove interesting. Jenny, do we have to agree to be friends?
No, absolutely not. The only thing that I require anyone to agree with me on at the moment about what has happened is that women who wish to meet to discuss their rights, or who want to explore very complex and turbulent topics in poetry, do not deserve to be hounded, ostracized, or punched in the throat. That is the only thing I require agreement on from anyone. I absolutely know that there are lots of people who support my poetry but don't agree with me about other things. And I'm the same. Like, I think I mentioned this in the Dark Horse essay. When I was a programmer, the idea that I would only program poets and writers who I agreed with, oh my God, I'd have had nobody to bloody book. So, I'm just asking people to have the same standards I have for others. So I am rolling a cigarette. Can I smoke at my own lunch? I'm so sorry. Nobody else is technically in the room.
At least I was doing it off camera, Jenny, for goodness sake.
Nervous.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I think the thing is, when you're talking about a public shaming incident, whether it happens online or in another way, or whether you're talking about a kind of purity spiral that overtakes a particular group of people, or center of discourse, these things accelerate. It is like a whirlpool that gets very, very fast, very, very quickly.
It's the spiraling that I was trying to sort of get across in that poem as well. I mean, I'm very lucky that I got the commission from the Dark Horse, because it allowed me a right of reply. But I particularly watched recently what happened to Kate Clancy, and regardless of what people think about the issues there, the unforgiving nature, the relentlessness of it is just, this is nothing good. This is nothing good.
Yeah. when you're caught in the jaws of that as well, like an apology can be the least good strategic move as well. So I guess my question about that is, a lot of people don't, get that right of reply, or a lot of people don't have the ability to distance themselves enough from it to write about it. As someone who has and has tried to convey that experience, have you got a message to anyone who's experiencing the feeling that they're being alienated or exiled or cancelled, and feels like maybe that's something that's not believed or isn't a real thing? Have you got any message for them, having gone through it?
I mean, the two things. First of all, is if you don't think that you've done anything wrong, don't apologise. I still don't know actually what people want me to apologise for. But also with that as well, there's always going to be people who will help you. I've been overwhelmed by the amount of people who've supported me, whether that's privately or more publicly. And there will be people on a very practical level, and this is for anyone who's right in the eye of the storm and has been directly affected by it to the point where they're going to the worst place that is possible to go, which I'm afraid I did. Get a wall calendar. Get a wall calendar and circle a date at some point in the future. It could be 3 days, it could be 2 months. Circle that date and get to it. And then do it again. And then keep doing that, because it does. It absolutely does. It can feel like, the worst point of mine was actually before it went public. And I was like, I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do. All this stuff is happening. I don't even know what's being said, who's speaking to who, what's happening. Blah, blah, blah. It's horrible. And yeah, that's what I did. I circled wall calendar, and it worked. But because I think human beings have not evolved to be able to deal with social media. I know I have, and I hate it. And I think we sometimes forget that my hounding was far from the only thing that was going on for me during that time. A breakup, bereavement, health scares, a cancer worry. Like, bloody hell, there was a lot to be dealing with. So yeah, that is my advice. Get a wall calendar, circle it, keep going. You got to keep going. That's it. Really,
really tremendous advice, Jenny. I think I'm right. I think there's actually, if you can see behind that IKEA poster, there's a wall calendar. I hit it with a poster for the call. So I 100% subscribe to that advice. That's tremendous. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the book, like where it's available, where you can order copies?
So you can get, if you buy it directly from me, you get a wee postcard of my choosing with a wee message, and you get it signed, but you can also buy it directly from Red Squirrel Press, and you can also come along on Saturday to the Rum Shack, where it will be more of a sort of cabaret style feel. There won't be a Q&A, but there will be plenty of gin, and there will be myself, Bram is going to be doing the set, Maggie Gibson, Jerry Cambridge, and the fantastic Elaine Miller, aka Gusset Grippers. She's going to be along as well, and then we will all have some fun. So it's an afternoon event. It's 2 till like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that's because I have no fucking stamina anymore.
Well, even if it's off stage, I'm looking forward to continuing some of the conversations we've opened up here. I think that's been really, really interesting tonight. Let's see if we've got any more. There were a couple of poems I think you were going to perform, which we didn't get to, which I really, really love. One is it's kind of a combo. It's an invite to your baby shower / have a kid. And that was one of the funniest poems, but also, it is a very serious topic in terms of, you're writing about gender, and the way that people construct or think about gender has a lot to do with maternal roles. Have you got anything to say about those before we kind of finish off the Q&A?
I think, do you know what? I think Sam Small recorded me doing Have a Kid, and it's maybe on YouTube somewhere. But Have a Kid is a list poem. It's too long to fit in now, unfortunately, because I've got one that I'm definitely going to do at the very end. But it's one of the most important questions in a woman's life is, am I going to have children? We have to make that decision a lot earlier than men do. I have a 7-year-old half-brother, so I can attest to that. And sometimes it's a choice and sometimes it's not. But the question of whether or not you are a mother is constantly asked. And there's a lot of judgment whether you do or whether you don't. It's one of those particular issues that if you do have children, you get judged for that. If you don't have children, you get judged for that too. And if you do have children, you get judged for how you raise them. And if you don't have children, you have some right-wing shithead calling you selfish or something, you know. So it's you can't win. So that's what that poem's about that I haven't done, but I'll maybe do it on Saturday.
Excellent. Well, that you heard it here first, folks. You got to come to the Rum Shack to hear that one done live, and it's well worth the trip. So listen, thank you to everybody who came along and asked questions in the chat. I think Sheila's posting some useful links to the Red Squirrel site, yes, I think one final request, which I think you'll happily promise to do, is that somebody wants you to write some poems about your cats next. So we eagerly await the next cat themed for you. But for now, I think we're going to pass back to you for one final poem and bid everyone a good evening. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I'll hand back to Jenny.
Thank you. That completely flew by. Oh my God, I talk so much. So I'm going to finish with a new poem as well, which I unashamedly say this is not a work of literary genius, and it was actually written for a wee group that I'm part of. But then I thought, you know what, it's so on theme, it's going in the book, bugger it. So the Dark Horse essay that I think a lot of people might be familiar with who are attending tonight, there's a paragraph in the essay that does a lot of work, basically, and that paragraph starts, "There is a very human cost to this." And then I don't really elaborate on the personal side of it, but I think actually what me and Bram were just talking about there in terms of what do you do if something really kind of crazy like this happens to you, and how do you keep going? And this is a 3-verse poem that fills in the blanks from the essay, which is called Anatomy of a Hounding. This split head throb, this frowning pate, I soaked in sorrow, sleepless nights, this smoking pipe, grim row of teeth sucking sepia through to lungs pulled tight, this bloated vision, this scrolling through endless panic-inducing text, this captured throat, this lumpen joke, this complete and utter fucking mess. This calm response to gritted gnashers he'd kept while fingers rage out letters, this gut swirl sick, this thud burst heart, this hurting soul, frank drunk blood letting this unhugged body, its every organ debated bit by bit by bit, but you're never allowed to be whole, and sex would ruin the fun to mention it. Well, fuck this rightly, fellow houndies. Let's paint the town with colours bright, bring all the verses and tales of righteous opposition, and yes, bring wine. Let's soothe out furrows, bury sorrows, refuse life in joyless, thankless fiction. No more caricatures, no more rack and bones. A life lived in truth is a beautiful mission. Thank you very much. Thank you so much to Bram. Thank you to the wonderful Sheila for publishing me. Oh, thank you. Woo, somebody unmuted. Thank you so much. Please do buy the book if you want it. If you enjoyed tonight, go and spread the word. If you hate my guts, shut the fuck up, stop tweeting, don't at me. And back over to Sheila.
Thank you, Jenny. That was fabulous. That was absolutely dynamic. And thank you so much for ending with Anatomy of a Hounding. That was so meant to be. Thank you, Bram. That was great. Great questions and great questions from the audience. And thank you, Mark, Zoom Master, as always. Massive thanks, as always, to Jerry Cambridge for designing and typesetting this beautiful book. And as Jenny says, if you haven't had enough, and you stay near Glasgow, 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon at the Rum Shack. Apparently, at present, all the tickets are booked out, but there'll be no shows, so don't hesitate. Please come along. Thanks to everybody for coming along tonight, showing support for Jenny. That means a lot.